Hi, my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel. It has been a long time. It's been almost a month since I put out a video, and this summer has just gotten away from me. I went to visit family in the US and it was so fun, but I have not touched YouTube. I haven't watched or made anything in a month, which honestly, kind of refreshing. I'm excited to get back into things, getting back here, but I have read a few books in the past little while, and today I am doing my very first ever book haul. Now, if you have been following me for a while, you will know that I don't buy a lot of books. I buy books for my kids, but for me, I don't get books. And even for my kids, it's okay, let's get a box set, so it'll take them a while to go through. This year, I went out to the US and my mother had stacks of books to give to my daughters, and she also let us go through her bookshelves and take some books home, and so I have some childhood favorites. And so I ended up dragging back in my suitcase a lot of books, and I'm excited to talk about some of them today, show you what I've got. It's really fun to have some of these books that I loved as a kid in my house now. So if I stop making sense halfway through this video, you have to give me a little grace. I am recovering from jet lag today. I got back yesterday and I wanted to film this video before I put away all these books in the bookshelves and forgot which ones were which, but I am mostly okay. Getting two kids over jet lag is a struggle. I am so grateful for my husband's help, because helping those two girls get over jet lag is a bit of a rough experience, but we'll be back to normal within a few days. So let's jump into the new books that I've got in my house. So let's start with just some of the picture books. There are just a few. First, we have a Halloween Howl, one of those Clifford the Big Red Dog books. Very, beginning reader books. Perfect for my 5-year-old. We've got Pinkalicious, which is kind of cute. She loves the color pink so much, she turns pink. The next book is Chrysanthemum by Kevin Hanks. And this is super cute, about a girl who loves her name, gets teased about it, and comes back around to loving her name. And I love the art in this. This is the same author as Lily's Purple Plastic Purse, and those were all favorites when I was a kid. These books remind me of me as a 10, 11-year-old reading them to my little sisters. Now, one that I have not read yet, we've got the Pout Pout Fish, so we'll see what that's all about. And for a cute, quick read, we've got Gotta Go, Buffalo. And this one is just a bunch of goodbye kind of sayings. And so we have the little pop-ups. So, hit the road, yellow toad. It's cute. If you want a quick bedtime story, this is a good one for that. I also got a few nature books. So we have Animal Armor. So that's fun. Big Beasts, about elephants. Face to Face with Sharks. My oldest daughter has always loved sharks, so this is perfect for her. And we have a great book about wolves. So those will be fun for the girls to look through. Then we got some easy reader type books. We have Ghostville Elementary books and a few Magic School Bus books. So those are great emerging reader kind of books to start out with. And now we are into the part that I am most excited about for these books. So these next one I have not ever read, but they look pretty interesting. We have The One and Only Bob. I'm pretty sure I read The One and Only Ivan, but we've got this, so that's fun. We have Into the Wild, yet another misadventure from the Chicken Squad. So that's fun. We have Just Grace Walks the Dog, so I don't know anything about this one either. And then we have The Eyes and the Impossible, which looks so pretty from the outside, and it's an interesting shape. It's very square, and it has some beautiful pictures in the middle of it. But my 9-year-old started reading it and said, I don't know if that book is super for me. So maybe I need to give it a shot. If anyone has read this book, let me know. I don't know anything about this except for it's pretty and has some pretty pictures. Now, these next books were some books that I loved in childhood, but they are not the copies that I had as a kid. So we have The True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle. I remember reading this not only on my own, but as a school class as well. And I remember really liking it. I surprisingly remember quite a bit about the plot of the book. I've, of course, forgotten many of the details, but I'm excited to maybe pick this one up again and have my daughter read it. I hope that it is as good as I remember it. Then we have Sarah, Plain and Tall. Now, I remember reading this as a kid. For some reason, I thought that this book was much longer. And I can't find anywhere that says that it's abridged, so is this the whole thing? Why do I remember this book being a much longer book than this? But I keep looking through it and I don't see anything that says abridged. I don't know if you've read this. This isn't right, is it? It's been so long, I don't remember. The next book I know I read and liked as a kid, but I don't remember anything about it. We have Sounder by William H. Armstrong. And I don't know if I'm going to revisit this one because honestly, I'm kind of sick of books that are a period piece about a boy and his dog. I don't know if that's quite my genre anymore, but I think my daughters might like it. Then for a classic, we have The Secret Garden. I honestly do not remember all that much about The Secret Garden. It has been so long. I don't know if I want to pick it up again. I don't remember ever loving this book, but I do remember reading it as a kid. And this book I adored as a kid, and I wonder how it holds up. I remember it being funny and meaningful and moving, and we have Bud, Not Buddy. And I am really excited to try this book out again because I remember it being a fairly influential book for me as a kid. Now, I have no idea if this holds up, if it still is as good as I think it is, but I do remember this as a kid and I really do want to pick it up again. I also remember the other book by the same author, which was the Watsons Go to Birmingham 1963, which I felt like was a heavier book. Still had a lot of that family humor, but maybe slightly heavier than this book. But I remember really loving this one. Now, I am saving the best for last. This is a stack of books from my childhood that I adored. And I'm really just excited to talk about some of these. So let's start with the first ones. I've got The Thief Lord by Cornelia Funke and Dragon Rider. I have both of them. Now, I do not remember anything about Dragon Rider other than I really loved it as a kid. But The Thief Lord, I read so many times. I am so excited to read this one again. I loved this book. The author has a really great way of picking you up and sweeping you along in a very fantastical world. I have reread Inkheart in the past few years and I really liked it and thought it held up, so I have high hopes for these two. Now, I'm going to talk about this book in a later video because I did read it last week. I was so excited to find it. But we have The Perilous Guard by Elizabeth Marie Pope. And this book was one of those books that I read as a kid that just settled into my subconscious. There was something not necessarily about the plot, but the mood of being trapped underground in a fairy realm that just really stuck with me. And the setting and place were so great. So I was so excited when I found this at my parents' house and I went and read it again. And I don't know if it quite has the same magic as an adult, but I really enjoyed it again. And I think I'm probably just biased, but it was so great to delve back into that world that has had a place in my head for so long. The next book is The Secret of Platform 13 by Ava Ibbotson, and I loved books by Ava Ibbotson growing up. Witch Witch was a really good one, and I loved this one. I'm gonna have to go back and read it again because I loved how light and fun they were and how magical they were. Now, this wasn't necessarily a childhood favorite, but we did take it from my parents' house because my daughter was very excited to find Tolkien, a Dictionary by David Day. And this is such a beautiful leather cover with all of these engravings on it. And it really just is going through an A to Z dictionary and a list of all the Tolkien things. And my daughter has read all the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and the Silmarillion, and she was so excited to find this. So this will be fun to have around. So this is another one of those books that I remember loving as a kid. I remember growing up every year on the last day of school, my mother would take us to a bookstore and let us pick out a book for summer reading. And one year I picked out this book. I don't remember this book 100%, but it's one that I have been wanting to reread for a while because I remember the retelling of Sleeping Beauty to be really imaginative and really fun. I'm really excited to try this one out again, get swept away in this story. I remember her being a very strong main character that made some real decisions in her life, and I really liked this book. We'll see if it has held up over time, but I do remember picking this book out for my summer reading as a kid. Now, this book I remember nothing of. This is one that we actually took from my husband's parents' house. And this is The Ear, the Eye, and the Arm by Nancy Farmer. I remember going through a phase where anything by Nancy Farmer I would pick up. And I remember really loving this book as a kid. Now, do I remember anything about it? No, but am I gonna read it again? Probably. I'm very excited to have this in the house. Now, for the last two books, I have a couple really special ones. This one was another book that I picked as my summer reading pick one year when my mother took us to the bookstore on the last day of school. And so this is a child's book of stories and best known and best loved tales from around the world. Now, these are some of those original fairy tales, and it's a collection. There's no pictures throughout. This is one of those books of those more original stories, definitely has a darker twist, and I loved this book. I remember reading it so many times, and there's something about the story of Bluebeard in here that I was obsessed with as a kid, and I read it over and over again. So I really loved these stories. I went back and read a couple of them. I was surprised at how much I liked them as a kid because I don't think the writing is super accessible to children, but that did not bother me as a kid. So I am going to definitely make sure this is on my daughter's bookshelves so that they can read some of these stories. These are the classic creepy fairy tales that will seep into your brain and probably change your brain chemistry forever. And for a very, very special book that I will treasure for always, I have A Girl of the Limberlost. Now, this copy was a Christmas present to my grandmother in 1944, and it is quite the old book. If any of you have tips on how to keep this book in good condition, please let me know. I remember reading this as a kid and thinking it was so magical. Do I remember everything in it? No, but I do remember the magic of the butterflies in this book. And I remember this scene of her learning how to do her hair and towel drying it in the window. I do want to revisit it. This is a very special copy of this book. And if anyone wants to let me know how to keep it from deteriorating, please let me know. And that is 32 books that I managed to fit in my suitcase to bring back here. And I'm so excited to have these new books at home. We do not have the space for them. I am probably going to have to buy a bookshelf, but that's good problems to have. So if you have read any of these books or remember them from childhood, let me know because it has been a while since I have read most of these, and I really want to know if any of you have heard of The Perilous Guard. I don't hear people talking about that. If any of you have read A Girl of the Limberlost, let me know which one I should be most excited to revisit. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.